Oi oi. Alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you, and this is Doodle Review, a channel that's about all types of music, but we're kind of alternative rock fiends first and foremost. I pretty much review something in the rock category like every other day, so if that's your vibe, give us a subscribe. You'll definitely hear me talk about a band you love in an upcoming video, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find something new that you didn't know that you'd love. The Killer is the latest David Fincher movie released last year on Netflix. It follows the story of an assassin, an unnamed character played by Michael Fassbender, an assassin who, despite being a very measured, meticulously strategic professional killer, messes up a high-profile job. Consequently, his employers punish him for this, and then the movie follows Fassbender as character as he kind of attempts to take revenge for that punishment. That's not a spoiler, by the way, it's kind of the basic premise of the movie. Fincher is one of my favourite directors. I like his cold, dark aesthetic and clinical but gritty approach to storytelling. Being a fan, I watched this movie the day it came out and I liked it, I think. It's certainly a very Fincher movie. All of his directorial characteristics are dialed up to the max, particularly in the opening 20-minute scene. I just found the story a bit meh. I also think there is something slightly, anticlimactic about a way a Netflix movie comes out that somehow detracts from the experience. It shouldn't technically, make a difference, but just being like, oh, there's a new Fincher movie out, shall we watch it? You see it, it's done, you move on. Something about that feels different to the event it felt like going to see Gone Girl or Dragon Tattoo, for instance. Anyway, the reason we're talking about it here is that a new David Fincher film, of course, means a new score from the Nine Inch Nails creative duo Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. The Killer is now the 14th movie they've scored and their 5th collaboration with David Fincher. Reznor and Ross seem to have settled into a flow of releasing an average of kind of 2 scores per year, usually taking a project you'd clearly associate with the dark kings of ominous synthesis and then one that surprises you. This time around, or last year, it was The Killer taking the role of the expected score and the surprise project being the recent animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot. As well as there seemingly being a pattern to the projects this pair choose, there does also seem to be a rough pattern to the musical output itself. It's not as clear cut as the one you'd expect, one you don't sort of model, but generally the scores kind of fall into 2 categories. The first is ominous, dark, synth-based scores paired with a piano that provides long suspended ominous notes. Did I mention ominous? The other category that work falls into I would class as more adventurous. It's the 1930s orchestral arrangements of Mank, the acoustic guitar and organic instrumentation of Bones and All, or the light, uplifting and celestial tones of Pixar's Soul. The Killer falls into that first category. On the surface, this sounds exactly like the trademark Reznor-Ross sound audiences have come to associate with them. I say on the surface because it should be said that while Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do have a signature sound, they never phone it in. You just have to listen to a few interviews or even watch a behind the scenes clip showing their process and you'll see how dedicated they are to getting under the skin of the characters, setting or story of the movie they're working on, and finding how to kind of subtly represent that in their compositions. Given that a movie score in a lot of ways is supposed to be invisible, you aren't actually supposed to notice the seams between the visual, emotional and musical storytelling. Given they have to be somewhat anonymous in their role, that they have to create the music with the needs of the film first and not the audience listening to the soundtrack, on its own, it's natural that even with the care and attention they place on their compositions, sometimes a scene just needs a dark, ominous tone. The Killer is also slightly unique in that arguably music plays a larger role in this than in any other Fincher movie, because the main character carries an iPod throughout the film to get his head in the right space for doing whatever he's doing. The Smiths are his band of choice, which is a really nice piece of characterization, but it takes up a lot of the space in the film where otherwise you might find opportunities for Reznor and Ross's score to kind of come to the forefront and ultimately do something that would be interesting to listen to on it, in its own right, in soundtrack form. Based on that, this is much more of a tone score than, say, the other score they did last year, the Ninja Turtles one, where they get to soundtrack the emotional moments but also the fast-paced action set pieces. As such, The Killer as an album is mostly easier to view as kind of one long track rather than individual pieces, because mostly these building tones really do just bleed one into the next. There is one exception to that though, which are the 2 tracks called The Brute Parts 1 and 2. These pieces do something I've not heard in a Reznor Ross score, or really any other at all. Soundtracking quite a brutal physical altercation, here the composers have actually built the musical and percussive elements around the sound effects of the fight, using the impacts, the breathing, the falls and crashes as the template to which they then add musical elements around. It's really effective in the movie, and showing how powerful the music component of a film is. When you actually listen to these tracks on their own, you're kind of easily transported back into that scene. Exemplifying what I mean when I say Reznor and Ross really go the extra mile to incorporate character moments into their work, the consistent element across the whole score is bass. Specifically sub-bass. The character's internal monologue and his state of stress or calmness is an important facet of the storytelling, and so the pair have done a great job of implementing this fuzzy, muted sub-bass sound into a lot of the pieces. This component is kind of a signpost of where the character is at that point, with the sub-bass becoming more and more prominent as the protagonist's stress levels rise over the course of the story. While it's not incredibly fun to listen to on its own, it's the thought process and care to incorporate a small touch like this that really makes the difference, and what makes this soundtrack team one of the best to do it. Because of that, I actually think The Killer is a fantastic example of why filmmakers, and especially David Fincher, come to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. On this score, they've managed to deliver their trademark dark presence that perfectly underpins the nature of the story, while finding unique ways to deploy sound that to go the extra mile, challenge themselves and add a new layer to the film. With that being said, on an album level, this isn't one I will see myself going back to like I do with, say, The Social Network, Gone Girl, Mank, or even Watchmen. It's a 5 out of 10 for me. Alright, enough from me. What do you think? Are you litty for Trent and Atty, or could someone not pay you enough to listen to a whole score of drones? Hit me in the comments, let me know if you made it this far. Stop being cute, don't be coy, stop messing about. Hit subscribe. We've got a ton more stuff coming your way that you obviously love. Don't forget to subscribe, share some thoughts, show some love, or hurl some abuse in the comments, and check out some links to other videos you might like in the description below. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, mate. Bye.